What am I doing? I'm using my psychic powers to try and figure out how much gold is in this dirt right here.
Quiet! Quiet! I'm gonna read your thoughts.
It's not working, is it? I bet you can figure that out. Hey, it's Doc, and welcome to our part 2 of testing raw pay dirt, or just testing video that I'm doing that ties into the previous video that we just did on the flow pan. So I recommend, if you're watching this one first, go back and watch the flow pan one that we uploaded earlier, and then watch this video. We get a lot of questions about testing dirt, testing creeks. Where can I locate gold? Should I work this corner? Should I work the brown dirt? Should I work the gray dirt? What dirt should I work? It's all about testing. I can't stress that enough.
You have to know what is down there before you do anything.
Test, 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 as Tony says. You want to test the dirt before you run the dirt. And it's something that I operate, or something that I tell all my commercial operations all the time. You should know what the end result of your mining run, your sluice run, or your run is going to be pretty much before you do it. And if you test properly, you'll kind of have a good idea.
You can't handle the truth.
If you're going to go out to a creek and you're looking at all these different corners, which corner should I run? Should I run the front of the corner? Should I run the back of the corner? Should I run the inside bend? Should I run the outside bend? You don't know. You should be able to answer your own question through proper testing. Let me say it again. Almost all the questions I get can be answered by the person asking them if they know how to figure out the answer.
Impossible, because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
The way we do that is we test. So test each of those corners. You walk up to a dirt pile. Half of the dirt pile is brown, half of the dirt pile is gray. Which side are you going to run? Don't ask me. Answer the question yourself. Get a flow pan, go out, take a 5-gallon bucket of each, and run and see what the results are. Whichever one tests better, that's the one you're going to run. This little testing thing holds so true. And every time, as an example, we work with commercial operations in 30 different countries. I'm working with one commercial operation, and I told them, I said, stop guessing. If you are going to run a different area, if the pay dirt starts to change, grab 5-gallon buckets out of these samples and run them through a highbanker, and you'll know exactly what your yield is going to be. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk more so about excavated pay, but it applies to everything. We're going to talk about the yield per yard is what I'm going to do. We're going to use that method today. So in other words, if I run a yard of dirt, what should I do? Really, commercial operations like to run $20 to $40 a yard dirt. And that's kind of hard to find on the high end. I have seen dirt. One commercial operation found dirt that was $120 a yard. That's amazing dirt. But a lot of the dirt, but we as prospectors, and I'll do this from a prospector standpoint, a lot of times we go to places that have excavated pay. What's that pay going to run? And I guarantee you that you've had runs where you've run bucket after bucket after bucket after bucket, and you haven't found crap. That's crappy dirt. But it's okay. That's prospecting. If you knew what it was going to be, if you knew what the result was going to be, it wouldn't be prospecting, it would be finding gold, not prospecting for gold. It's kind of like fishing. They call it fishing, not catching, because you don't know. That's kind of the excitement about it. One day you'll go out and you'll work some dirt, you'll have great gold. The next day you won't, but you should know where you're going to be approximately by your testing. So anyways, let me just set up this video a little bit. We went out and we did some testing of raw pay dirt. We went up to the mine, we did some testing. Sometimes it's good dirt, sometimes it's bad dirt. Every day is different. You never ever know. But what I wanted to show was I wanted to test. And so we took probably about 5 buckets and we tested it with the flow pan. And what the results of the flow pan testing showed us was that the dirt was not good that day. It was like bad. We found a couple specks of gold for five buckets. I mean, just a few specks, few tiny specks. And I said, man, this dirt is not good today. I've seen good dirt up there. I've seen it where I ran 10 buckets in a stream sluice and had fantastic gold. But every so often, you're going to go up there, the dirt's not going to be that good. So what we did is we did the same thing. We took that same dirt and we ran a ton of buckets. We ran 150 buckets approximately through our Raptor flare, which is what I'm going to show you today. And I'm going to show you the yield results and how that matches up, how our flow pan testing actually corresponds to the results that we got on our Raptor flare run. So 150 buckets, that's approximately, we're going to call it 2.5 yards. That's what we're going to call it, because there's 200 gallons in a cubic yard. If you have a 5-gallon bucket and you only fill them up about 3/4, well, it's kind of the rule. I say about 50 buckets kind of equals a yard of pay. That's kind of the rule that I do. So we're going to just ballpark, and we're going to say I'm going to go on the low side. We may have run 3 yards, we may have run a little more, but I'm going to say 2.5 yards of pay for sure. So we ran 2.5 yards of pay, and I'm going to show you the results that correlated directly into our flow pan testing. So hold on. Okay, now before I start this main video, I'm going to put up a clip that I shot a few months ago up at the Loud Mine. And I want you to look at the difference in the piles. I want you to look at the texture difference. I want you to look at the color difference. It was so dramatic that I had to put this clip in here. And if you didn't do testing, which I did do that day, but if you didn't do testing that day, you wouldn't know what was in this dirt and you wouldn't know which pile to run. Hey guys, so it's about an hour later and I'm back here, and again, they've shut down the Loud Mine because they're back here doing a bunch of renovation work. So just to give you a sort of an example of what I'm doing, I just gonna grab a couple of buckets I wanted to drop by here. And Joe was up here and he grabbed a couple of scoops for me of just some dirt over here, different areas, just so I could play with some different dirt. They've got a few piles back over here, different material. So these are the piles that Joe just grabbed me a couple quick piles, and I'm not going to use them all. He'll just push them back in, but I'm just going to grab a couple of buckets. But pretty interesting. This stuff is real red looking. That stuff, look at it, it's almost yellow looking. That stuff, look at the difference. Look at the difference in color of that. That's pretty interesting. You can see that's red, yellow, gray. And then we've got some, you can see the difference in color here. This is more brown. This looks like more overburden, but who knows? I'll take a bucket of it and check. So anyways, like I said, I've just told Dom I was going to drop by here, grab a couple of buckets, work a flow pan, just see how the renovations were going back over here. It looks really good. They're working electrical systems back over there. They're doing all kinds of stuff back in here. So when the place opens up March 1st, I think it is, it should look pretty good. But I figured since a lot of members can't come up here right now, I figured I'd drop by and just sort of let you know what's going on. But again, it's the hunt. I don't know what's going to be in here. I don't expect to see much gold. Honestly, I really don't. But let's take some shovelfuls, let's take some fill some buckets and run it. So what was interesting about this trip to the Loud Mine was all the different materials and all the different piles and the variations of not only the color, but the makeup of the material. I did a little bit of testing, and sure enough, each one of these piles differed greatly. And believe it or not, the brown pile that I thought would have the least amount of gold actually had the most amount of gold in it. But I only knew that because I tested it. Remember, when you're running excavated pay dirt, if you see something that looks strange or looks a little bit different, grab some of it and do a test. You may be onto something, because that's what we did. This brown dirt and any of this green dirt we found had really nice gold inside of it. We've got the unit, the Raptor flare, running with the extension on it, which is the way I like to run when we're doing this. So if I know that I'm going to have a big crew out here, and if I'm going to be running a 5-gallon bucket every 20-30 seconds, then I'm going to put my extension on it, because it's going to be running heavy. So the normal Raptor is right up to here, and then this is the extension. So a couple of main thing about the Raptor that you'll see is there are no spray bars. So guess what he doesn't get? He doesn't get a bath. So Cody, what's the difference between spray bars and that unit? If he was dumping that in on spray bars, the spray bars would be kicking them back up in the face. But because we use a destruction chamber, and then we have a double fan spray over here, comes down here, goes in, that's what saves you. Now this is the clay claw. So the clay claw will hold all your rocks, lift it up, and all your rocks come out. The clay claw is an option along with the header box flares, but if you're going to get the unit, I'd get the clay claw. So we start off narrow up here with aggressive matting. The same water flow flares out, goes into razorback and downdraft basically in here. Then it goes into the extension, and the extension basically has mostly mother lode and bedrock inside of it. And you can see how smooth that runs. But again, we can run a 5-gallon bucket and roughly, we do about a 15 to 30 second dump into it. And we do not have to worry about losses, obviously. Heavy, heavy clay material today. You'll notice that all these portions right here, they're not riveted, they're actually welded. All of these are now welded versus riveted. So I had them pause for a minute because I want to see, this is bedrock mat right here. Excuse me, this is mother lode, we got bedrock. So this is the extension. We put nothing but mats in here that are targeted for super fine gold, super slow, super smooth. Then we have razorback and downdraft in here. This section has razorback and downdraft. This has scrubber, talon, cut river hog. It's more aggressive. So what I want to show is, I want to show how quickly that slurry gets dirty. So go ahead and feed it. And just watch that slurry move down. And you can see how quick it gets all thick and dirty, and that's perfect. That's what we want. That's what we gear our mats towards. We gear our mat towards that thick slurry in here. That's my settings today. I know what dirt I'm running. Hey guys, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take each one of these sections of the Raptor flare, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan these out individually. Now normally what I do is I take all these concentrates and just run them through the multi-sluice. You know, take me 2 or 3 minutes just to do that. But I'm going to hand pan each one of these sections. So the first 36 inches of the Raptor, which we already panned in the field, the next flare, which we have not panned, then the next one would be the extension part. So I'm going to pan each one of those by hand just to let you see what kind of gold is in there. So I've already panned out the first 36 inches of the Raptor. So let me show you that real quick. So as you can see, it's not looking real good. So that's the yield off the top 36 off of what, 150 buckets, almost 2.5 yards of material. So like the flow pan told us, we were not going to see a lot of gold. And that's absolutely true in that Raptor. So that's the first 36 inches. So I'm going to start panning out the other stuff. So here is the second section of the mats. Now I panned off about 20% of the silt when I was there. And I know it's the second section because I wrote a 2 on this second section. So this is the second part. So you have the initial Raptor upper, and then you have a flare. This is the first flare section. Then I actually have the third. This is the extension. And what's funny about the extension is there's a huge amount of super fine black sand in the extension. So we're running motherlode and bedrock mat in the extension. And that stuff just captures a huge amount of superfine black sand. So that's from the extension. So I'm going to pan these out real quick. Okay, so let me show you what was in the second section. Now there's a larger piece of gold that's actually a flake. You can probably see that flake in there. That's really cool. Piece of wire gold. And then fines over in here. And what I'm going to do is, there's probably a couple more pieces back in here, so I'm going to rework this, but I wanted you to see that so far. Okay, so I panned out the extension on the Raptor flare. You're not going to be able to see the gold. I'm assuming there's a tiny little line of like 150 to 300 or even 400 mesh gold. And so what I'm going to do is take a picture of it with a magnifying glass that I have for my phone and put that up. But let me grab the camera at least and show you, see if you can see it. So by weight, especially here in Georgia, 99.9% of our gold is caught usually in the first 2 trays. But let's see, let me zoom a little bit. Let's see if you can see it. I don't even know if you can see it. Well, I'm going to get my camera and I'm going to get a magnifying glass, take a picture of that so you can see it. Okay, so I'm in the laboratory, better known as the kitchen. And a lot of people are going to ask, Doc, why do you mark your snuffer bottles? So I figured I'd answer it. When I'm doing a very controlled test, I have a lot of snuffer bottles. And so to keep them from being confused, because some of them have gold inside of them, I always mark what I'm doing. So this is test 1A, so I'll just be sucking this up. So little by little, I'll just be sucking this stuff up. Can't do this with one hand. I'll take the results. I'll take the results of all 3 of these pans, and the exact amount of gold, we'll dry it, weigh it out, and we'll see what our actual yield rate is per yard is what we're going to do. All right, so a lot of people ask, how do you dry and weigh your gold? So this is a stainless steel gold tray. We actually make these and sell these on our website. So that's what we use to actually dry and weigh gold. So I'm going to take this out of my snuffer bottle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the water in with it. And you can see that I still need to get it out, so I'm going to get more water and pour water into this tray. I don't think I've ever showed this before. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm just going to keep pouring that water in. So now I've got gold. I've got gold and water in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake that gold back to the back of this tray over here. And then I'm going to gently pour water out. I'm just going to let the water drain very gently out of here. And now I've got my gold sitting in the tray. So now I can take this gold tray, and I know I'm supposed to be venting this, but there's not enough gold here to worry about mercury. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to heat up. You can see that this part of the pan is going to get hot, and this part will not. I can actually keep my hand on here. So that part's going to get hot, and you'll see it start to steam. Be careful, because there's a fine line of when it gets hot and when it doesn't get hot. If you have a bunch of gold in here, you need to be careful and heat it slower than this, because it'll start to pop. Gold pops when you heat it. So I'm going to take it off, put it back down, take it off, because the bottom of the tray is wet. I didn't think about that. So the nice thing is I can push my gold back here and dry it, and this part of that tray is going to stay fairly cool. That corner needs to dry, so I'm going to tip it up like this. You can see it sort of bubbling and getting hot. That's my speed drying technique. Now I'll warn you, if you have any soap or jet dry in here, it may actually stick. The gold may stick. So, all right. So several people have asked what scale I use. This is an AWS Gemini 20, and what I like about this scale is the fact that I have two. This one I use for smaller amounts. This will go down to, if I turn it on, I have it set on grains, not grams, and you're going to see I can go to 1/100th of a grain. So it's great to scale for testing. So this pan is still a little bit hot. Let me try and get this gold to pour in here. I think that's most of it. Let's see if I lost any over here. No, I'm good there. So I have got let's call it 2.5, because there might be a speck over here. Let's call it 2.5 grains is what we recovered running approximately 150 buckets, or about 2.5 yards, we're going to call it. Now let's go figure out the math. All right, math time. So let's just take as an example, let's say gold is at $1,300 an ounce. Let's divide that by 480 grains in a troy ounce, and that gives us $2.7 per grain. I had 2.5 grains times 2.5 equals $6.77 for that whole run. So we take 677 divided by 2.5 yards, and that equals $2.70 per yard. Not very good dirt. Just like the flow pan told us, we were not going to have a very good day.
So let me ask you this. Did we find gold?
It's yellow, too, like
Gold.
We sure did. We found gold. Did we find a whole bunch of gold? No, we didn't. Did our testing prove true from the flow pan to the highbanker run? Absolutely, 100% correlation. Did we have a crappy day? Absolutely not. Let me tell you what, this trip was probably one of the best trips I've had in a long time. Number one, we found a bunch of gems, but number two, we had a great group of people. They all had a good time. They all learned something. It was just a really great time. Great weather. Everything was great about this trip. It was just nice to get out, be outside, and be out prospecting. They will find more gold next time. Look, I want to share something funny with you real quick. I like to fish, and I always go down to the ocean and do fishing at least once a year, a couple times a year. There's a fishing pier down there, and when you go onto the pier, there's a sign that says You should have been here yesterday. They were biting like crazy. When you're leaving the pier, there's a sign that says, come back tomorrow. That's when the bite will really be on. Kind of the same thing in gold prospecting. You never know. You never know what's going to happen when you go out. But if you're going to be testing, if you have some proper tools and if you know how to test, you can pretty much tell where to put your energy into, what the results are going to be. Anyways, it's Doc from Gold Hog. Make sure you subscribe. There's a subscribe button down there. We're going to be uploading close to 30 videos over the next couple months. So subscribe and make sure you check out our Facebook page. Talk to you later. Doc.